Hey bike farmers, thanks for clicking in. If you're anything like a large number of my customers, this is the time of year where you know spring's right around the corner and you look at those bikes hanging up on the hooks in your garage and you're like, last time I rode it the tires were squishy and the brakes aren't feeling so hot and maybe it isn't shifting right or there's some clicking and clacking and you're just not sure what to do about it. Well, I think you have two options. You can bring it to the bike shop and I'll charge you $100 to tune it up, or you can throw it in a stand and do it yourself. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this bike, but nothing on it works real good. It's unbelievable how with just a little bit of cleaning and a little bit of lube and a tiny bit of adjustment here and there, this thing can be better than brand new in under an hour. In this video, I plan on showing you exactly how easy it can be, and I'll kind of talk through how some of these systems work. This is a really good example. I'm excited to get into it. You kick back and relax, and I'm gonna get started. The very first thing I do to almost every single bike that gets brought to me for service is I squeeze the right brake lever. And what I'm feeling for is there any corrosion, any kind of stickiness or gooiness in this brake cable? And then I also feel like how much pull, you know, if it's tight, then I know that it's been adjusted recently, or it hasn't been ridden too much, or the brake pads aren't worn. This one's pretty tight, but I can feel that there's a bunch of gunk and, you know, it doesn't feel real rusty. But I know it's been a while since it's been tuned up. This bike is just telling me that it's been sitting for a long time. Then I usually just kind of work the shifter a little bit, and it's like not even clicking when I push the thumb in. So I know inside there these need to be flushed out. I have a little magic sauce for that, and we'll wake that right back up. But I can also feel there's, you know, a bit of sticky gooiness all in this shift cable too. So those two things tell me it's ready for a tune-up. I'll squeeze the tire. This is pretty classic, right? This bike's been sitting since, I don't know how long it's been sitting, but a lot of times if your bike's been hanging up since the fall, you get it out in the spring, you got about that much squish to it. But I always check both tires and I feel both tires to make sure that they're equal. If one is firmer than the other, the one that's softer has a hole in the tube. The next thing I'll look at is the chain, and I'll just kind of see if it's rusty or if it's dirty. This one just happens to be dirty. You can see this rear derailleur has a pretty major scuff here. It looks like this bike's been laid down. If you see scuffing on your derailleur, good chances the hanger is bent. I happen to know this hanger was bent. I just straightened it. That's for a different video. I have other videos about doing that. It's beyond the scope of what I want this video to be. And if the chain isn't super rusty, you can kind of count on things shifting. I just kind of see if it's accessing all the gears. Looks like it is. Needs some adjustment, but it doesn't make any sense to adjust anything until you're done cleaning and lubing. So let's get to cleaning. So per the usual, we'll unhook our rear brake, flip open our quick release here, and pop the wheel out. Go ahead and do the same up front. So with the front wheel, you can flip the lever open and the wheel won't come out because the fork has little, safety tabs on the bottom. So you got to grab one side of the skewer and then loosen the other. It's just like a nut and a bolt, but you don't undo it all the way, just enough to get it past the lawyer lips. That's what we call them. Now I find it easiest to clean the frame and everything else with the cables disconnected. Just pull the derailleur like that, and then that cable's loose. We already have the brake cable loose, so we just got to slide it out of its happy home here. On the front derailleur cable, we can pull out on the derailleur just about that much. Usually you have enough, so you do that. Pull that out, and then you reach around, and then you can get the piece of housing out of its happy home on that side. And the rear one's already loose, so you can do that. And the front one the rear brake kind of just ended up doing its own thing. I use Behold furniture polish because it's the cheapest furniture polish at the grocery store. I have found that the generic furniture polish works just as good, maybe even better than Pledge. It's a little bit cheaper, but it makes an excellent bicycle polish. If your bike is really dirty, Dawn Power Wash is a great way to get grease off. This one is mostly just dusty, and I think the furniture polish is all we're gonna need. Then I have a moderately dirty rag here. It's not filthy. And yeah, I'm just gonna go through and wipe all the polish off. Hey bike farmers, just a quick note while there's a lull in the action. If you've made it this far, I assume you liked the video enough to click the like button. If you really like it, let us know in the comments below. And if you're into bicycle content for regular people, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're able to support more directly, click on the super thanks button and send me some taco money. Or better yet, join the channel as a monthly sustaining member. All of these things will help grow the channel organically and give the Bike Farmer YouTube channel a strong future. Thanks again for watching. Now let's get back to the bikes. Okay, the frame's all clean. You can take this piece of housing and lube your loop here. I'm just using Tri-Flow. You can get a little bottle of this for 10 or 15 bucks. I have links in the description to all this stuff too, so you can go check that out. Get it from the Jungle website. And I'm just going to put, Tri-Flow all along that cable. Rear brake here, and I can just see there's like, it's not corrosion, but it's kind of gunkiness on this cable. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at how dirty that is. Let's wipe that up. We'll do a lot of wiping as we go here. Just kind of keep a rag going. Learned that from my grandmother. She used to eat a lot of prunes, and we'd hear her in the bathroom singing her song, wiping as we go, wiping as we go. If you ate like I do, you'd be wiping as you go. None of that's true. I made that whole thing up one day in a video, and I think it's pretty funny, so I keep singing it. So I'm just turning in the barrel adjuster here. That's an adjustment you can make on the fly. If you turn it left, it brings the barrel adjuster out, which increases the housing length, essentially tightening the cable. Turn it in, and it decreases the length of the housing and loosens the cable. But you can really dial in your shifting. I'm gonna leave it so there's like 2 or 3 turns to loosen it. Because most of the time, if you have to make an adjustment, it's to tighten it. But we'll make that adjustment when we're done lubing here. You gotta do it in the right order. You gotta clean, then lube, and then adjust. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense any other way. You end up having to redo things. All right, we can return our housing to their happy homes. So the front brake, you'll see, we don't have a whole lot of access. We only have like that much up here because there's only so much room down here without loosening this. Now you could not be lazy and loosen that and get a little bit more. Or you can be lazy and just kind of drip it in. Right? And then I kind of hold it and work it. Let gravity do its thing. Once you get a little lube down in there, it kind of wants to wick its way down. That'll improve over time. And then don't forget to lube your noodle, guys. Know what I'm saying? You can even drop a little right there. Yeah, buddy. And that is slicker than snot on a doorknob. And then way down here in the nether regions of your bicycle, you want to put a couple drops there too, just for good measure. Now usually as part of my normal tune-up videos, I'd be up at the truthing stand with my bicycle wheels, waxing philosophical, pseudo-intellectual nonsense at you. But these are brand new wheels because this bike was crashed and both wheels were bent. So I just replaced them. So I'm assuming that they're pretty good, which, like most bikes that have been hanging in a garage and totally rideable, the wheels are pretty good. You don't really need to true wheels on bikes like this to enjoy a good bike ride. They don't have to be just exactly perfect. They just gotta not rub. So that's what we're gonna show you. Now I'm gonna hook this front one up because I'm looking at it and thinking about it. We'll reconnect the rear brake too while we're at it. These shifters are not crispy, but they're also not too far gone. So I have Finish Line One Step. It's kind of a cleaner and a lubricant. And if you get your needle right in the pod there, but you can go there, and then why not? Let's get some back there. Brake lever feels way more better, hey? Ooh, making squeaky noises. But I mean, that is 18 times better than it was. That's crispy. Do some wiping as we go here. I don't like that. I don't know what's going on. Very nice. So I'm gonna put the chain in kind of one of the middle cogs here. I've got my One Step. It's my favorite tune-up sauce. And I just kind of go nuts with the chain. And then I take, this is a dirtier rag, and it's dry, and I just about took my finger off there. All right, give it a wipe. Pedal backwards, wipe it the other way, and I kind of like take my fingers and work the chain a little bit. Give it a good cleaning. The way this derailleur works is back here there's a couple of screws. There's a high and a low. The little gear is the high gear, big gear is the low gear. Here's the barrel adjuster on this derailleur, right? So you turn it out and it tightens it, turn it in and it loosens it. Okay, that's the cable tension. Okay, and you press the lever and the derailleur pushes the chain and derails it, right? Like a train. It's like pushing the train off the track. So here I am. I'm not in my high gear, okay, and I'm plucking my cable and it feels tight. So I'm gonna loosen the cable, okay, and that's gonna relax the derailleur and allow it to pull the chain towards me and into the high gear, okay? Now that's pretty good. Check my cable tension again. I feel like maybe it wants to relax a little bit more. So I could try to turn the barrel adjuster, but I know that's not gonna work. I think it's a limit screw issue. So what the limit screw does is it limits how far the derailleur can relax, and then vice versa, it's gonna limit how far it can push it into the spokes. If you have really good eyes and you're 23 years old, you don't have to do this, but when you're old like me, you get to find the high limit screw, which in this derailleur, they're usually labeled with an H and an L, but find the high limit screw and I'm just gonna turn it out a little bit, which allows the derailleur to relax, although that didn't do any change at all. So there you can see how I'm turning it in and it's pushing the derailleur. And if I turn it out, it allows it to relax. So that's as relaxed as this derailleur is ever gonna get. I'm gonna turn my barrel adjusters in all the way now. Just because I'm looking at it and thinking about it, there's no cable end. So I have the Park Tool EP1. It's the extra pretentious one, most pretentious tool I own. Anywho, we're going up one at a time here. Oh boy, so you can see right there, it overshifted, it wanted to push the chain into the spokes, and what saved it from certain catastrophe? The dork disc. It's a brand new dork disc that I had put on, and I put them on all of the bikes, except my own. And then people on the internet call me a hypocrite, Anyway, I'm turning in the low limit screw here, and it's going and going and going, and that's because I'm actually turning in the high limit screw. So 9 out of 10 times you're going to get the wrong screw. Even though there's only 2 of them and you have a 50-50 chance, still it's a 90% situation 100% of the time. Anyway, people take these off because they think they're ugly or they get yellow and crack. It's just a cultural thing, and it's so dumb. Yes, properly set limit screws will prevent that from happening, so you don't need that. However, if your derailleur gets bumped and the hanger bends, it will shift over even if your limit screws are set. So it happens to regular bikes all the time because people put them in and out of their cars, they put them in a bike rack, they fall over after being leaned on a tree, their kids knock them over, all kinds of things happen and push on that derailleur and they overshift. And then you need a whole new wheel. I mean, you don't really need a whole new wheel, or else you can pay me $100 to like get a rim and rebuild it. But there, now it's properly adjusted and won't overshift. But it's super slow shifting down, which means that this cable is too tight. So my barrel adjuster is all the way in, so I can't loosen it anymore with the barrel adjuster. I have to loosen this bolt. I guess this is going a little bit further than basic tune-up, but I can show you here. So we'll loosen this cable just a little bit there, just a smidge. Okay, and then we'll turn this barrel adjuster out a little bit. Okay. Okay, it's not shifting. One click, one real soft click, and it's not shifting up. And I'm gonna just turn this barrel adjuster out, tighten that cable, and it just shifted. Okay, click back down into the high gear. That is crispy shifting now. I could just feel it that I wanna back my limit screw out just a smidge there. That is good enough for who it's for. Now I showed you before how on the front derailleur the barrel adjuster is up on the shifter. I'm going to spray this with one step and just get all of the pivots lubed up just so everything's moving freely. And then I'm feeling underneath the bike and I can feel that cable is loose. Very, very, very common, totally normal. Cables stretch and housing compresses, so I don't think this cable has ever been adjusted since the bike was new. There is enough on that barrel adjuster to use the barrel adjuster to tighten it properly, but I have the barrel adjuster all the way in and then backed out like 3 turns. And now I'm gonna make this cable tight, just like I did on the rear derailleur when I loosened it. Okay, and then we're going to shift up into the middle. And the chain is sort of pretty much in the middle. I'm going to go into the high gear, which is a small cog. And now we're getting rubbing. The chain is rubbing on the outer cage. So that's when I grab my barrel adjuster on the shifter. And as I pedal, I'm turning that barrel adjuster out till it's just barely not, kind of almost not hitting, but hitting a little bit. Shift down and back up again. And there's just a tiny bit of clearance there. Now, I'm gonna shift up and back to the low gear, and now it's rubbing on the inside. So I'm turning that barrel adjuster in, up and back down. Okay, so just tiny bit of rubbing there, and then back down, and a tiny bit of rubbing there. That's as good as we're gonna get it. So triple chain rings, you always get a little bit of rubbing. Theoretically, they're supposed to work and not rub. And, you know, they never really do. That's just the nature of triples. Okay, we're all the way up. This is the high gear, so small cog in back, big ring in front, and no rubbing. And we'll go down into the granny gear there. So now we're granny gear and granny gear. And there's no rubbing there. So I put the bike in the middle gear and I like to leave it there. It's all set. All right, rear brake. A little bit of tri-flow, just in a couple spots here, and especially in the pivots. Do a couple drops, and then if you wiggle things back and forth a little bit, and then I like to lube the springs and back. Okay. Now, the cable's lubed, pivots are lubed, everything's lubed. This brake was almost not functioning when we started, and now it feels absolutely delicious. I really don't need to make any adjustments at all. The pad, I checked to make sure that the pads are lined up, and they are. Yeah, just a little bit of cleaning and lubing. You don't even need any adjusting. However, if one were to adjust, I'll show you anyway. So this is where I mess it all up, right? There's always screws that adjust the tension. You can increase the tension and pull the brake system one way or the other. So it is kind of pulling a little more from this side than the other. So I can loosen the tension, right? I'm gonna do like a bunch of turns. See how it's only pulling from one side now? I need to tighten the tension on this side. It'll pull the whole system over until you get it just exactly perfect. And once you get it just exactly perfect, stop messing with it and go for a bike ride. Oh, do the front one first. All right, front brake from above. It's a weird camera angle, isn't it? I'm gonna regret this during the edit, I tell you what. This one has a little different feel. It's got different pads, replacement pads. A couple of things are going on here. It's tighter than the rear, not by much. So to loosen it, it's a cable tension thing. Okay, and you don't want to make any kind of huge changes. These are micro adjustments, but that's way more better, hey. And then because it's like pulling from one side, I always look at the center ridge of the tire and see if it lines with that hole. I'm loosening the skewer, just making sure that the wheel's in the fork right before I start making too many tweaks here. You can kind of see how the whole thing is off to one side. I'm just not happy at all with any of this. You see how this kind of always wants to be over here? And you see how the brake is like splayed out? There's a spacer here and then spacers back here. This spacer's thinner than that one. It's the same on the other side. I'm gonna swap those spacers around and make this brake work a lot better. Okay, one thing you can do too is these are linear springs. You can disconnect them back there. Then things flop around. That'll come into play here in a second too. So again, this is like more than typical tune-up stuff, but kind of neat to be able to show it to you. So, take the wide spacer and concave washer out. Put the thin spacer in. Concave washer. Okay, grab the nut and the regular washer and grab the other parts. Okay, this is how I do it. Okay, you got it just like that. And then with extreme dexterity and incredible mechanical prowess, one is able to then get your pad lined up. A lot of people like to toe their brake pads, which means have the front of the brake pad touching the rim first. That helps avoid howling brakes, and it does, but I think it makes the brakes feel like crap, so I never do it. If my brakes howl, I just kind of sand the rims down. That seems to work too. It's a point of contention and controversy on most bike channels, I think, in the comments. Go ahead and leave me comments. You know how much I love the negative ones. Do the same thing here. Now what you can do is with the spring on this side, but not on that side, you can Really just let the spring pull the system together, get that pad just exactly perfect. And then crank her down. Then you can do the same to the other side. All right? This is how you get that really snappy feel to your brakes. Get those pads hitting at the same time, perfectly flat. Okay. So now, adjust our cable tension. I just squeezed them tight and then let off a little bit. Okay. Add some tension to this side. All right, I'm gonna turn this out. Here's a cheater hack. Bend your linear spring. Okay, we got an even pull. That's too much. Back it off a smidge. I'm gonna tighten them up a bit. They felt a little bit looser than the rear. I like my brakes to feel the same. It's a bit too much, but I didn't crank on the anchor. So if you really pull hard on the cable, it just loosens up. Just a fraction of a millimeter is sometimes all you need. It feels really pretty good. And once you get it to that point, you can hide your cable back there. And that's good enough for who it's for. You know, we just don't want it to rub, okay? Now, if your rim is bent, it'll rub, you know, when you have a good brake adjustment. If you just get a little bit of ting, 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 then you can just kind of adjust the tension on your brake, pull it one way or the other just so it doesn't rub. It's good enough. You know, you're not racing uphill for money, so the efficiency of these bikes isn't critical. You just want them functioning good and feeling good. Easy to ride. You know, you want them mechanically sound and functioning properly, but you don't necessarily need things optimized for performance, right? Because you're just out enjoying yourself on a bicycle. You're not, like, your life doesn't depend on it. You know, your children are still gonna eat. Unless you're riding bikes instead of feeding your children, which I'm really not opposed to. Now, most sensible human beings like practical bikes. And if you have a practical bike, you have a kickstand. And if you have a kickstand, chances are is it's loose. So don't forget to tighten that bolt. And then I always like to squirt a little lube up the kickstand's butt. Then last but not least, we put air in the tires. Now, my general rule of thumb, make it firm and go for a bike ride, is my motto. But with a hybrid bike like this, 75 pounds is a good target. Tire pressure is a personal preference for the most part. There are guidelines, but no hard rules. A lot of people ask that question, you know, what's tire pressure? And I'm like, well, it's kind of up to you. It's very flippant of me. But often, telling the truth, you'll come across as being flippant. There's no real straight answer, but most tires say it on the side, gives you a range. As long as you're within that range, you're good. And there you have it, folks. That is the easiest way I know how to make $100. I mean, that's the easy way to tune up your own bicycle and save $100. I mean, there's probably easier ways to make $100. I haven't figured it out yet. But what I'm trying to get at is, a lot of times you can just put air in the tires and go for a bike ride and you'll still have fun. But with a little bit of cleaning and a little bit of lubing, like in the case of our rear brake, that's what fixed it, is just cleaning and lubing. Anybody can do that. A few things going on with this bike that needed to be addressed. If you watch enough Bike Farmer, you're gonna know what to do about those things. If you like this content and wanna see more of it, let me know in the comments. Click that like button. You gotta subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I have Super Thanks set up. Now, Super Thanks is the best way to support content creators directly. You click that button, money goes straight to me. I take that money, I go straight across the street to El Mariachi's. I get myself tacos campechanos. I feed my belly. It nourishes my mind, body, and soul, and then I make more videos. Now, if you don't wanna click that every single time, you can just become a monthly sustaining member by joining the channel as a member right here on YouTube. A lot of people send you off into La La Land onto Patreon, and it's like this whole other platform. You don't have to do that. It's all just here on YouTube. And that's how you keep your creators in business making videos. For yourself though, you need to click that notification bell. That way you and your bikes can stay tuned.